Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first session of Teacher Professional Learning Events for the landmark exhibition 65,000 Years, A Short History of Australian Art at the University of Melbourne's Potter Museum of Art. My name is Eloise Breskvar, and I'll be your host for this special event. It's a privilege to connect with you today online in the lead up to the reopening of the Potter and the launching of the exhibition, which will open to the public on the 30th of May and run until the 23rd of November. Before we begin the presentations, we would like to acknowledge that the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation are the traditional owners of the land on which we work and create, and upon which the Potter Museum of Art was built. Sovereignty was never ceded, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artists, knowledge holders, and contributors to the exhibition and participants joining us online today. 65,000 Years, A Short History of Australian Art has been curated by Distinguished Associate Provost Professor Marcia Langton AO, Senior Curator Judith Ryan AM, and Associate Curator Shanisa McConville, in consultation with Indigenous custodians. The exhibition strives to reveal the ingenuity and excellence of First Peoples art, which is the prominent and foundation of this continent's great art history. While this is the focus of this presentation, today's curatorial overview is also about truth-telling. This exhibition calls out the wrongly commenced history of Australia, the dispossession of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's land, rights and freedoms, the impact of colonial violence and oppression, and the impact it's had on the lives of First Peoples, as well as the denial of this history. We would like to advise all viewers that there are artworks in this presentation that contain instances of violence and the Australian wars that may cause distress. We would also like to advise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers that this presentation includes the names, images, and works of people who have died. The purpose of this session is to share our excitement for and information about the exhibition. We'll begin with an exhibition overview from Senior Curator Judith Ryan and Associate Curator Shanisa McConville. Then, Senior Academic Fellow for Indigenous Exhibitions Learning, Dr. Abby McDonald, will introduce you to our learning partner, Ngarrngga, the teacher resources and school programs she has developed in collaboration with the curators and Ngarrngga's curriculum team. Finally, we'll have time for questions at the end of the session. So I ask you to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Questions will be monitored and shared to the speakers during question time. This session is recorded, and the recording will be made available at the end of the week after this session, and the recording will include captions. Please share it with your networks. Now, I'm delighted to welcome Judith and Shanisa to share their overview of 65,000 Years.
Thank you, Eloise. 65,000 Years, A Short History of Australian Art is a visionary exhibition of immense scope that issues from the notion that Indigenous Australian art, the world's longest continuing such tradition, precedes Australian settler art by many millennia. In mid-2021, 5 years after Professor Marcia Langton was invited to curate an exhibition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander art that showcased the university's collection of Indigenous art, Shanisa and I started work with Marcia on 65,000 Years, A Short History of Australian Art. The provocative title bemoans the fact that despite First Peoples' proud 65,000-year history of belonging to this land, Australia, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander art has only been recognised in the literature of Australian art from the late 1980s. Shanisa will give you some of the interesting details of the scope of this exhibition and explain when it's opening and what the reason is for this exhibition taking place now.
Great. Thank you, Judith. So 65,000 years, a short history of Australian art. Obviously a lot to cover with a title like that. So there are many, many works in the exhibition, which will be at the newly refurbished Potter Museum of Art. So as a part of the redevelopment of the Potter, we have new dedicated spaces for teaching and learning, which is very exciting. And in the exhibition, there will be over 450 works for viewers to see. For those not familiar with the Potter is a large building. So we have 3 floors that we're going to be occupying for this. And there are over 12 spaces where we're going to have works. So there is not one part of the building that has empty space. Obviously, there's a lot of history for us to show, so we have a lot of works. And as a part of those 450 works, we have 6 new commissions, which are very exciting and have been developed specifically for this. And a number of those commissions have also been acquired into the University of Melbourne's art collection. Of the 450 works, there are a number of works from the university's various collections, and we have over 70 lenders that we've engaged. So there are works coming from a number of public institutions as well as private lenders. Again, with such a big title, this exhibition is really looking to track a number of different art movements that have occurred in Australia. We are also exploring and highlighting a number of key individuals who have put Indigenous art on the map. And we're looking at others as well who have striven to create something new, something different, who have been really innovative, as well as looking at artists that are continuing to practice in the present and how they continue to change, explore different forms and subject matter using different colours and symbolisms and so much more. So Judith and I are going to talk you through some of the key themes in the exhibition, and you'll see a number of works that will be featured in the Potter. And a number of these works will also be included in the learning packs.
Right. So thank you, Shanisa. As has been pointed out, the exhibition meanders across time and space. It does not follow a linear time scale. Rather, we are constantly moving backwards and forwards into past and present and looking at the works in the context of history. Given that the university is located on unceded country of the Wurundjeri people, visitors will be welcomed by Brett Levy's virtual Naarm 1834 that digitally reimagines pre-contact Naarm. And this will be followed by a powerful display of contemporary women's fibre art from across Arnhem Land and the southeast part of Australia. This was important because we wanted to show that we were looking at and celebrating contemporary art and also the very neglected, the often neglected art by women. Because until the 1990s, women were not given an opportunity to paint on canvas or on bark, and quite often their names were not written down when they had made fantastic woven objects. So this was an important acknowledgement from our behalf. And most of those works in our opening foyer are now in the University of Melbourne collection. As Shanisa said, we have been developing the collection as a result of this project. Issuing from our acknowledgement of the traditional owners of Naarm and of contemporary women's weaving practices, we will celebrate ancestors, country and culture of Indigenous Victoria and Lutruwita through Jara cultural objects, the early drawings of William Barrack and Tommy McRae, some of the great artists of renown working in Victoria, where contemporary art of First people originated here in Victoria. And we will also acknowledge the devastating impact of colonisation on inhabitants of Victoria and Lutruwita through both settler history paintings and archival documents. In parallel with the initial focus on the Great Southern Peninsula, because Lutruwita and Victoria were joined by a land bridge for much of their history, we will address the theme of first encounter, empire and the Australian Wars, issuing from the landing of Lieutenant Cook at Botany Bay in 1770, when he claimed the east coast of Australia for the British Crown, a gigantic land grab. This story of British invasion and its devastating consequences for First Peoples across Australia pervades the exhibition and underscores the brilliant artistic achievements it celebrates. Shanisa, this is a very packed ground floor. Let's explain for those who are watching today some of the challenges we've faced in fitting in the different sorts of work in this space.
Mm. So there's a number of works, across different mediums in this space. We have sculptural works, we have paintings, works on paper, a number of commissions that will be in the round. So just physically fitting everything in the space has obviously been a challenge. But with such important topics and with the big focus of this exhibition being on truth-telling, it was really important to be able to curate it in such a way that there is a narrative there and that everything has a place. So I like to think we've done a really great job of doing that. So there's a lot of history there and a lot of important history and a lot of works by both Indigenous and non-Indigenous artists in this space to consider.
In the face of this difficult contact history, the Level 1 galleries encompass important moments in Indigenous art history, beginning with the bark tradition of Arnhem Land and Groote Eylandt, with examples drawn from the unique historical collections of Yulnor and Anindilaqua bark paintings and cultural objects gifted to the university by distinguished men of letters Donald Thompson, Leonard Adam and Sir Edward Woodward. A great moment of celebration is that the Donald Thompson collection is now back at the University of Melbourne. It was gifted to the university by Dorita Thompson in 1973 and has been on loan to Museums Victoria for 50 years of its history. So this is a great moment in time. Our Art of Arnhem Land display will begin with Ngarrngga and Ngarrngga paintings from West Arnhem Land, collected by Baldwin Spencer in 1913, and Yulnor bark paintings of scale and aesthetic sophistication collected by Thompson from Milingimbi and Caledon Bay, East Arnhem Land from 1935 to 1942, supplemented by exquisite woven objects. This important Yulnor tradition continues to the present, as seen in the dynamic bark paintings in Larrakitch by accomplished women artists Ngarrngga Marawili and Dumbit Ngarrngga, who are direct descendants of two of those old masters. Now, as Shanisa will explain, the walls in our exhibition are not universally white, nor are they black. And the bark paintings in this special space have a very unusual colour. Shanisa, explain what Marcia had in mind.
Yes, so throughout the building, you'll encompass a whole range of different colours and textures. Every gallery space has a different look and feel specific to the theme of that zone. And in this area where we're looking at the art from Arnhem Land, we really wanted to take you back to where these works originate. So this idea of walking through a forest and having, this lush green surrounding you. And also thinking about, the contemporary works, which you can see here, and the great introduction of colour. We've reflected that throughout the exhibition as well. Contrasting with this rich display of paintings in organic materials,
which initiated an important political dialogue between Aboriginal artists and white outsiders throughout the 20th century, remembering that art is inevitably political. We will celebrate the emergence of modern forms of painting in the central and western desert, encompassing the Western Ngarrngga watercolour landscapes. We can think of Albert Namatjira and the Hermannsburg School from Ngarrngga. And this movement, the watercolour landscape tradition, led to the aesthetic upheaval at Papunya in the Western Desert, where astoundingly, through the creation of acrylic works on scraps of composition board, artefact became art. Subsequently, during the 1980s and beyond, acrylic paintings on canvas spread throughout the Western Desert. Women's art practice emerged, and post-2000, painting was embraced across the APY lands, where great colourists have come to the fore. Now, Shanisa, this is a section of the exhibition that you and I particularly love.
Yes.
Let's explain to the people who are with us today exactly what they might encounter in this great space.
So this section was very near and dear to both of our hearts. And it was really important for us to tell this story right, thinking about a lot of the stereotypes that exist out there and trying to debunk those. And of course, I'm referring to the stereotypes that all Aboriginal art is dot painting, because that obviously has derived from these areas. And thinking about the fact that, people still think that Indigenous artists, have to use ochre exclusively. So we've really tried to showcase that art from this region, the Central and Western Desert, is actually extremely diverse. It's vibrant and it's constantly changing. And we really wanted to highlight women in this zone in particular and how they have really been the pioneers leading the innovation and the development of changing styles in this region.
And their work really opened the way for other artists in city contexts, the Kimberley and other parts of Australia, to be able to sort of defy stereotypical expectations that they might be painting on stringy bark with ochre, because that might not be, we don't get eucalypt forests in the Western Desert, of course. Following this level 1 immersion in cultural objects composed of organic materials and its exploration of modern forms of Aboriginal art across the Central and Western Desert, the exhibition will change pace and geography on level 2 and focus on new directions in First Peoples art. The first of these will explore a new form of ochre landscape painting that emerged in Warman in the East Kimberley during the 1980s. We will also introduce contemporary works of resistance and invention by pioneering city-based artists and the diverse paintings of land and waterways by acclaimed senior artists from Northern and Central Australia. Their modern works in introduced materials defy purist stereotypes of what Indigenous art should look like or mean. Shanisa, this is an exciting part of our exhibition also.
It is, yes. As you alluded to earlier, a lot of these works are inherently political, and that becomes a lot more overt in the art we're depicting in this section of the exhibition. And we really see a shift in people actually connecting to Indigenous art and understanding that it is so diverse, it is constantly changing, and that it is addressing a lot of very serious themes, but it can also be playful and it can be fun.
Our exhibition will conclude with an exploration of cultural astronomy that will encompass representations of the cosmology of the night sky and of the Seven Sisters narrative by Western Desert and Yolngu artists. This section is really focusing on the importance of Indigenous knowledge systems that really are incredible to contemplate. Our midnight blue walls will also be resplendent with the linear geometry and highly developed mineral patterning of the contemporary lino cuts by male Torres Strait Islander artists that encode their astronomical knowledge of the solar system and echo their traditional carving techniques. Moreover, a dense display of Wandjina bark paintings, tiwi paintings and sculptures, rainforest shields and Yulnor Moikoi figures will capture the brilliance of First Peoples' customary sculptural and painting traditions. It's often been said, Shanisa, that less is more in relation to art exhibitions, but really, for us, more is more.
That's right.
Could we have crammed any more into this exhibition space?
We absolutely gave it our hardest try. Over 450 things to see, so it's very exciting.
Thank you, Judith and Shanisa. I'm sure everyone at home and watching the recording later will take those insights into the curatorial premise of the show and be prepared to visit the show with all of that knowledge and your passion. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so if you would like to get your hands on a copy of the 65,000 Years publication, which is available now, you can purchase it via this QR code on your screen or the Potter website. Next up, we have Dr. Abby McDonald, who has travelled to Naarm from Lutruwita to be with us and present on the exhibition's educational offering. Take it away, Abs.
Thanks, Eloise. So the 2025 Schools program responds to this landmark exhibition by offering curriculum-aligned tours and a limited number of hands-on workshops catering to school grades 3 through to 12. For our school group tours, you and your students will be guided with care by our trained facilitators who are young people studying at the university for a unique peer-to-peer learning experience. This is a major point of difference for school programs at the Potter and the University of Melbourne. Our teacher events are an invitation to come to know, hear and understand the curatorial vision and key messages of the exhibition, and to discover the ways in which the curatorial team and classroom and museum educators have brought Indigenous knowledge into conversation with curriculum content for you. At the centre of these initiatives is a suite of quality teaching and learning resources that highlight the unique contributions and significance of the artworks and artists featured in the exhibition. Developed in collaboration with Ngarrngga, the resources are designed to engage learners with key information and concepts through activities that invite reflection, discussion, meaning-making and further inquiry. They are designed for our on-site school groups at the Potter and will also be available online for you to use in your classrooms via the Ngarrngga website. Ngarrngga strives to support educators to be confident in showcasing Indigenous knowledge within their teaching and learning programs. When we feel able and affirmed in ways to do this respectfully and with integrity, we have everything that we need to create opportunities for all Australian students to learn about the achievements and contributions of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples to Australian society. As a signature project at the University of Melbourne, Ngarrngga is a collaboration between the Faculty of Education, Indigenous Studies Unit and Indigenous Knowledge Institute. Ngarrngga is a Tanarong word meaning to know, to hear, to understand. It is an invitation for us all to imagine many possibilities for what we can teach and how we can learn about this remarkable exhibition together.
We ask everyone to come along and imagine. Imagine an Australia where every Australian student has the opportunity to learn about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures. Imagine an Australia where all educators feel confident and are culturally competent, showcasing Indigenous knowledge Imagine an Australia where Indigenous knowledge experts have a safe space and feel empowered to share their stories and expertise. Imagine.
My very pleasant surprise in talking to teachers and principals about this work over quite a number of years now is that they themselves recognise the need for this work. So they know what the Australian curriculum framework states. What they want to know is how to do it.
We know that education plays a key role in shaping future Australian citizens. By having opportunity to actually hear the true shared stories or the shared histories of Australia that has often been omitted from the Australian history record, it allows for non-Indigenous peoples in Australia to come to know and understand, but also to hear the reasons why there is this kind of disconnect within Australian society at the moment. Ngarrngga is definitely an invitation to come along with us and let's explore, investigate, celebrate peoples that have got the world's longest continuous cultures. What a privilege.
Part of Ngarrngga's work is the development of teaching and learning resources made by educators with educators in collaboration with Indigenous knowledge experts. It is this aspect of Ngarrngga's work that I am particularly excited to contribute to. I joined the project as a non-Indigenous Australian woman of Scottish ancestry, born, raised and educated on the island state of Lutruwita, Tasmania, Palawa and Pakana country. I'm seconded to Ngarrngga from the University of Tasmania's School of Education as a senior academic fellow, where I work with multiple teams across a range of contexts, developing education resources. A year of conversations, connection making and collaboration underpin the education offerings developed for this exhibition. Many of the artworks Judith and Shanisa have shared with us today feature across the suite of resources. Today, we share a bigger picture overview of their design and creation. Ngarrngga's resources foreground Indigenous knowledge as the basis for making specific and meaningful connections with curriculum. This approach respects and upholds the holistic, dynamic and interconnected nature of Indigenous knowledge alongside meeting the needs of teachers seeking classroom-attuned and curriculum-ready resources. 5 bespoke resource packages are being prepared for grades 3 through to 12, each featuring up to 7 key artworks chosen by the curatorial team. The knowledge contained within these artworks is storied individually as well as in relation to each other. These weave into 5 overarching thematic storylines that bring the artwork's showcase knowledge into conversation with curriculum content for each paired grade. With an emphasis on fostering curiosity, care and connection making, each resource pack highlights a range of key knowledge, concepts, questions and inquiry prompts. These are designed to invite engagement with, reflection upon and discussion about the artworks and artists, both in the museum and your classroom. The Ngarrngga team engage with a breadth of Indigenous knowledge, curricular and pedagogical scholarship as part of our approach to education resource development. Building upon the Australian curriculum's cross-curriculum priority of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures, Ngarrngga expands upon the organising ideas of country, place, culture and people. To bring these organising ideas into further conversation with Indigenous knowledge, the Ngarrngga curriculum team have collaborated with Indigenous knowledge experts to define and articulate how elements such as land, sky, water, fire, kinship, design and communication create a variety of pathways into content, capabilities and priorities across the three dimensions of the Australian curriculum. The resources are non-prescriptive and designed to acknowledge and respect the diverse pedagogical expertise, priorities and preferences that you bring to and from your respective education settings across the country. We encourage you to be creative, confident and responsive to the unique needs and interests of your students as you tailor the learning experiences you can have and create with these resources. This exhibition attests to the 65,000 years of ingenuity and resilience of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. To round out with a final teaser, I can share that every resource package concludes with this immense work, Ngarrngga from Betty Muffler and Ngarrngga Burton. Commissioned especially for this exhibition, this painting is about healing country and people, and for upholding care for land, country, culture and one another. In the same ways the culture lives and continues to evolve, we recognise that coming to know, hear and understand in culturally responsive ways means these resources will also continue to evolve. In practice, these resources will remain open to feedback and improvement and move with the flow of societal and systemic change. Over time, the resources for this exhibition will network further into the broader constellation of Ngarrngga's curriculum resources, which live on the Ngarrngga website. There, you will find a growing suite of complementing resources that you can use to further pursue specific points of interest that stem from this exhibition for you and your students for years to come. I believe deeply in the enormous potential of arts, culture and education for helping us understand ourselves and the world around us more fulsomely, truthfully and compassionately. My experience collaborating with people in teacher professional organisations, creative industries and cultural institutions to create education resources continues to affirm this belief. Above all else, I meet you here as a learner. I too take up the invitation from Ngarrngga's curriculum lead, Joe Sambono, to be brave and have a go, to take risks and try, to think and create with patience and care, to share my efforts and listen to how they are received, to be open to change and guided towards discovery. This is what coming to know, hear and understand means for me. I hope this resonates and comes through in the education offerings prepared for this exhibition. I hope that you feel a sense of care, curiosity and celebration for everything this landmark exhibition has to offer.
Thank you, Abby, for sharing your words of encouragement and passion about the exhibition and all of the learning resources and tours that we'll be providing. Thank you so much. That wraps up our presentation, and now it's time to respond to some of your questions. You can ask further questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. So we have a few that have come through during the presentation. And the first one that is being sent to us is, what is the overarching relevance of the exhibition to schools and why now? Can I hand that one to maybe Judith and Shanisa and then over to Abby, because I think you'll both have some great answers to that question.
It is a great moment now that with the redevelopment of the Potter Museum of Art, which has been closed since 2017, that the university and the Potter have decided to focus on this important topic, and it is the first exhibition at the Potter Museum of Art to devote its entire gallery spaces to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander art of Australia. It seems that now is the time to extend the information and the excitement of this exhibition to the next generation of Australians so that we can work towards a better future in which black and white walk together and work together, and we can learn more of this fantastic 65,000 years of knowledge, brilliant art, culture, philosophy and astronomical knowledge that can enrich our environment and show us how to look after and care for the environment.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Shanice, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think just thinking about education in particular and the fact that, that's where all of this really needs to start. This truth-telling needs to be taught from the ground up. Everybody needs to understand what is being depicted in a lot of these artworks, but also the artworks themselves, to acknowledge the fact that there is so much diversity and that it is continuing to change. So that, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, communities and their practices are known and are respected by, the wider Australian public.
Yeah.
It's a living culture.
Exactly.
It's happening through all art movements.
Yeah.
I think too with this as well, that the opportunities that an exhibition like this presents to hear and hold stories, and that we can sit with multiple perspectives of stories at the same time. And while some of those narratives might be different to what we were once taught or what we knew, when we bring those into conversation, I think that artworks in particular are amazing catalysts to have these kinds of conversations, and for individually teachers, students to think and reflect. Another part of this too is, as we've discovered in creating the education resources, there are so many opportunities to make really meaningful, real-world connections to all learning areas, a whole range of general capabilities and priorities. So not only is it an opportunity to be learning about amazing artwork, we are able to learn so many further things through those artworks and the stories that we are able to bring out of those. So I think it's very significant.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time to be relaunching the Potter with such an incredible learning opportunity. So our second question is from another educator. As a non-Indigenous educator, I want to do this work well and I feel a bit nervous about making mistakes. Do you have any advice? I might hand that one straight to Abby.
Sure. So you might recall something I think is really important for teachers, and it's not just about teaching and learning about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures. I think this is broadly applicable, that you need to be a learner and you need to give yourself permission to be a learner. And part of learning is discovery and finding things that might not sit with you in a way that you understood. So there's quite a bit of work that needs to happen there to make sense and meaning of things. So I love that message from Joe Sambono about having a go and being brave and having conversations with your peers, with people that you have relationships and connections with from wherever you are teaching across the country, to go back and revisit things. Think about what you were taught. Think about what you're teaching now. And there are so many opportunities here for you to learn. And the thing I love about Ngarrngga is that there are fabulous resources there to help alight so many different ways for you to approach that, but also for you to not be told how to do that. Part of that learning is you bringing that into conversation with how you know your students best. And so there is work there for you to do to make this real and authentic for the students in your classroom. And so I think, don't worry. I think that message of being brave and having a go is where to start. And as things happen that might not go the way you planned or envisaged or whatever, you can make things right and you can do things differently, and that's an important part of that learning.
That's some good advice. I think it'll apply to all teachers and all educators who are coming into the space. Thanks, Abs. Our third question is, for those outside of NARM, is there a way our students can engage with the exhibition digitally or online?
Through the education resources, absolutely. And the fabulous thing about this exhibition that Judith and Shanisa gave us the overview of today is that there are works from across the continent and islands. So I know for myself, working and living in Lutruwita, there are some amazing artworks that I'm very excited to be able to story into some of these resources. And so you will find that there is a whole range of opportunities for you to find artworks that are made from the communities in the places where you live, learn and teach. And so there's really nice opportunities there for you to use those online resources and bring them into that applied context in your classroom, wherever you are teaching and learning from across the continent.
And just to add to that, we're commissioning some videos of artists who are speaking directly to school audiences for those resources. So watch this space. They will develop over time as well.
And it's fortunate that there is a lot more available both online and in libraries now. There's a lot more access to First people speaking about their work and, teaching us through things that they're constantly sharing with us. And that sort of form of deep listening to what Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are telling us is a great way forward.
Yeah, it's good learning, broadly speaking. That's the thing as well there. These are universally great practices, I think, that are really important.
And they'll be relevant for year levels, and then within different subjects, they can be brought into different subject areas as well. So they've been designed in that way. So another question about the resources has come from a teacher. Are there plans to expand these resources to early learning P2 at some point?
Well, I can say there's a yes and no for that, in that for 65,000 years specifically, we have designed the education resources for grade 3 through to grade 12. What I can tell you is, if we come back to the point that I've closed out with, that these are evolving resources. So even post-exhibition, these resources will continue to live on the Ngarrngga website and fold back into that broader, expanding constellation of education resources that are being developed by the team. And so there potentially will be opportunities for some of the materials that have been prepared for 65,000 years to start to stretch down to create opportunities for our little early childhood teachers and students. But there is also a broader parallel suite of work happening with Ngarrngga that is not specific to 65,000 years, around preparing resources for the early childhood educators and students as well. So you need to sign up to the Ngarrngga website and keep an eye out for those updates.
And the Potter Schools mailing list as well to keep updated. So we have time for one final question, and I think it extends on one of the previous questions. It's about connection across the curriculum with the exhibition content. But how could, say, a math teacher or an English teacher in my school connect subject learning to the art and the art history present, like at the basis of the exhibition?
Well, firstly, I will say there are many ways that we will be looking at how they will happen. And it'll be really important to come to our next PL event in April, where we will be looking into the the granular detail of what's in each resource package for each grade. As to give you an example, because I won't speak, I could go on here and I won't. If we think about the fact that these are the storing of these education resources and the Indigenous knowledge within those, there are incredible opportunities there already that I can see very clearly around how we can knit those content connections into subject-specific areas, particularly those that deal with things like history. There is fabulous opportunities to be exploring geography, a lot of material from within the English learning area as well. So there really is, I'm actually quite shocked as these unfold where they could be taken. And so what these resources will foreground is we'll kind of like create little threshold pathways to kind of go here. You could go this way, but there's also that invitation for you to be have part of your own learning that you may make more and beyond what is actually noted in the resources themselves as well. So there is lots. And you need to come back in April. We'll look at them with the specifics.
And then in May for the exhibition if you're able to make it. So that wraps up our first teacher professional learning event for 65,000 years. It's an excellent sentiment to end on, that you joining us online today, you're starting your learning journey just as we started ours a year ago, many years ago, for the exhibition. So thank you for starting your journey with us today. If we were unable to answer one of your questions today, you can share your question with us through the feedback form. A QR code should come up on your screen shortly. And I want to thank you for joining us online, and to those who take the time in the future to watch the recording of this event. Join us online on the 3rd of April, as Abby mentioned, for the second event when we do take that deep dive into the education resources with the Ngarrngga team. Thank you so much again, and see you next time.